Hello everyone, welcome to the integration testing portion of the definitive guide to Flutter testing video series. And basically this video we're going to cover integration testing. So integration testing is a phase in software testing in which individual software models are combined and tested as a group. So they're a step up from unit testing, and it's used to conduct and evaluate the compliance of a system or a group of components with specified functional requirements. So basically, what we're going to do here is we're going to test the home page of our calorie tracker application. So just for reference, here's our calorie tracker application, and here's the home page. Here's what it looks like. So it has 3 buttons, and we're going to test whether these 3 buttons exist. So here in our calorie tracker application, in the test folder, integration test pages, homepages.dart, we can see we have some tests defined. So these are integration tests, and let's start with the first one. So this is our first integration test in the home page, and it basically renders the home page using pump widget method, and checks for the existence of the text Flutter calorie tracker app. This text will act as the title for the test for the app. We're going to test for the existence of this title. Next, we're going to test the subtitle. So welcome to calorie tracker app. So that's the title, and this is the subtitle. These 2 tests seem trivial, but nonetheless important. Next, we have testing for the debut button, and basically we're testing for the existence of the debut button by finding by text the debut screen, expecting to find one widget. Again, we're using a pump widget to inflate the calorie tracker app root method. So this is the main method, and we're going to use that to inflate everything. As you see here, this is the widgets. Debut, history, and settings screens are the main screens. And just for reference, the debut screen is this button right here. Next, we're going to do the same for history button and the same for settings button. So we're basically checking for settings screen and then checking for history screen and expecting one widget for all of them. So now let's run this test suite. This will take a while. I'll try to fast forward. Okay, so now our tests have finished running, and we can see that all the tests have passed. So next, let's go on to the debut integration test file. And in this file, we're going to be testing some key tests. So I won't be covering all the tests for the sake of brevity, but I will be covering this one. So this one basically checks when the user opens the debut screen and taps the add food button, then the add food modal should open. So I have a cool GIF on my blog post, which I can show you here. And it's basically this screen right here. So what we're doing here is we're opening this modal and checking for whether this modal actually opens when we click that plus icon. And in order to test whether that modal opens, we're going to be using a number of things. So first, click the debut button using tap, then pump and settle. So we have to wait for a second to make sure the application is allowed to rest. Then we look for the value key, add food modal button. So this belongs to a button widget, a text button widget that we can use to find. Okay, let me look for it. Yeah, it belongs to an icon button, and then we're finding it. Add food modal button, I'll find it by the key, and then pump and settle. So tap that icon button, and then just wait for the modal to show up. After the frames have settled, then we search by key for the add food modal. So the add food modal is a modal alert dialog that pops up, and this is basically encapsulating the add food modal, where the user is allowed to enter a food entry into the application. So that's what we're testing with this widget. So now let's test whether adding an actual food would produce an entry. So right here we have a create food track entry workflow, and we're basically entering an information, and we can see here a new food entry has been created. So first we add food, and we give it the necessary information such as food name, calories, carbs, proteins, fats, and grams. Then we click OK, and then we can see a new entry has been added. So in order to test this feature, we're going to go to this test right here. So this is significantly longer because we have to enter all the values for the form fields. But from prior to this point, it's identical to the previous test. So now we're going to enter some values. So we're going to say cheese, 500 calories, 15 carbs, 25 protein, 20 fat, and 20 grams of it. Then we're going to tap the modal submit button in order to submit this entry, pump and settle, and then find text cheese at widget position or position 0. So the reason we have 0 at 0 is that because there could be multiple entries having the same name, and because due to the way the app is built, new entries are always appended to the top. So let's see, when you submit, that new entry takes the topmost position. It's not added to the bottom, it's added to the top. So since we're checking from the top, we need to check at position 0. So basically, this find text might return an array. And if it does return an array of greater than 1 length, then we need to check the first position, because that first position is going to be the newest food entry, and that's what we're validating here. So cheese, we're validating that this widget or this tile has been added, this entry has been added. So as you can tell, these tests are quite a bit more complex than the previous ones. So next we're going to go to the arrow button. So we're going to test the show date picker widget, and basically in order to test this, so here's a GIF. So we're going to start from today. We're going to go 2 back and then 2 forward, and then end on today. So as you see there, we're validating that after we do that, so 2 to the left and then 2 to the right, that we should end up at today. So first we go to day view screen, pump and settle, then click the left arrow button, wait for it to settle, then click the right arrow button, and then at the end of all that, we're expecting to find a widget with the text today. That's because we went backwards, so we went to yesterday and then we went to today. So now we expect to find today, and that should pass our test. So next, let's move on to our most quite possibly our most involved test here. As you see, it's quite long, but what we're doing here is we're adding and then deleting an entry from the using the food modal. So right here, we're adding some food entry data. So cheese, entering the necessary information. And as you see, there's a bit of overflow, so we should correct that. But yeah, so we click OK, and then we're seeing cheese. So now we find the one we just added. We click on the drop down, and we make the delete icon appear. Once we make that delete icon appear, we can click on it, and in the subsequent frames, we validate that that entry has been deleted. So let's see it again. So click OK, click on it, tap the delete button, and then it should be gone. So that's what we're testing here. So similar to the previous test, we go to the day view screen, click on the add food modal button, enter this information. So right here we're randomizing what we're entering as the food name. So this is done because, so the reason for generating a random food name by adding a random number to the string cheese is to prevent duplicate food names in the food list that can be problematic when using find.text to search for the newly created food entry in the food list. So as you see here, we're using find.text food name. And if we have two items with the same name, say cheese, then it's ambiguous what this find.text method will find because there's duplicates. In order to prevent this, we're using the random keyword or random method, and we're assigning a random number and appending it to cheese to give it more uniqueness. Then we search for that food name specifically right here. So now we're using drag.visible, drag until visible. So this method basically drags the current view until the first parameter is visible on screen. I'll try to include a link on Flutter docs for drag until visible. So speaking of the first parameter for drag on visible, we have ancestor. This method basically finds the parent widget containing the text widget, and the parent widget for this text widget is a food tile widget. Let's see if we can find it here. Yeah, so right here we have our food tile widget, which is what you see in these tiles. Yeah, so these tiles are each a food truck tile widget, and we're basically targeting the food name text widget, and then we're using find.ancestor to get this widget itself. We're using that to get the expansion tile. Once we get the expansion tile, we can click on the delete method. So we just need a reference to it. So let me navigate back to where we came from. Yeah, so get the ancestor, food truck list, drag until visible. And so we're going to scroll down the list just in case that we've added multiple and we actually do need to scroll down. Then we tap on the food name that we just generated by searching for it using find.text. So we saved a reference to this randomly generated food name, and then we're going to use that reference to find it. So once we find it, we get the ancestor, which is going to be of this, so which is going to be the parent widget expansion tile. Tap that, tap the expansion tile right here, and then wait for the frames to settle. Once we've tapped the expansion tile, that drop down feature appears. So let's see here. Just give it a second. Yeah. So click OK. So watch. You click the drop down and then the delete button appears. So right here we click the drop down. We click the expansion tile, wait for it to settle, and then we tap the delete button that appears. So the delete button has been given a delete button value key, which is how we identify it. Then we tap it, wait for it to settle, and then we expect the food name to not be there. This is because we have deleted it. And we wait and we make sure to validate that it has been deleted. So that was quite a lot. So let's run these tests and see if they pass. These tests might take a while as well. And I'll try to fast forward. So here we can see our widget test, our integration test running. Our automated test. And that was the last widget. And as you see right here, all our tests are passing, which is great news. So that concludes this video on integration testing. I hope this video series has given you better examples on how to test Flutter applications, because as we all know, testing is very vital for the software development lifecycle and should not be neglected. If you made it this far, congratulations. You know some ways to test Flutter applications. If you have any constructive criticisms or things that I could do better for this video series, please let me know in the comments. And if you found this video helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. And thanks again for watching my video series, and see you in the next video.